Hey guys, currently finishing up just a couple more holiday cards, and I'm sending one of these to a lucky winner who doesn't know that they're getting our holiday card, but it means that they won a big box of goodies. So I'm finishing that off. I've got my coffee somewhere, probably need to reheat it. Here is the coffee. Yeah, it definitely needs a little bit of a reheat. And then today we're gonna talk about something fun, which is finances in 2020. I'm really excited to talk more about this because I feel like I've learned a lot in 2018, 2019 for sure, but moving forward, I have a pretty good idea of what I want to do in order to save more money, think more about my credit, think more long-term. So I'm gonna share some of those tips with you guys as we approach the new year, because I think it's the perfect time to reevaluate your decisions, what you're gonna take with you into 2020 and the new decade, which is so exciting. I can't believe it's a whole new decade. Wow. This video is in partnership and sponsored by Lexington Law. You guys know I've been working with them over the last couple of months and I've talked about them before. They are an amazing way to not only learn more about your credit, but also help to fix issues that you've had with your credit in the past. They're able to make cases for you, make claims, also give you guidance on how to fix your credit, because as an 18-year-old, I made a lot of mistakes that I wish I had not made, and it made my early 20s and even into my mid-20s a little bit tougher because it takes a really long time to get things off of your credit, typically 7 years. So I'm finally in a better place now because it's been more than 7 years since all of my bad decisions when I was 18 to 20. So it's one thing to just kind of keep in mind as you're going into 2020, if you need the help with your credit, Lexington Law can definitely help you. You can do a free consultation, figure out what services you may need, what plan is going to be best for you. So I'm going to leave all of that information down below. But now my coffee is reheated. I reheat my coffee so many times, you guys. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I just can't finish a gigantic cup of coffee in a quick time period. So I have to reheat it about 4 or 5 times every day. Aaron thinks I'm crazy for having to reheat it that often, but hey, to each their own, okay? So let's dive into some tips and tricks about finances for the new year. Let's save that money, people. Let's save it. First tip is gonna seem pretty self-explanatory, but one of the most important things that I feel like, especially here in the US, that we have a hard time with is sticking to a budget. Okay, I have some friends who absolutely love their budgets. They have a set number each month that they spend. They give each other the ability to go shop a little bit certain times of year, but they basically budget everything out. And I think there's a lot of power to doing that, because when you're not budgeting, you're really just kind of spending freely. You're not really planning. There's really no thought behind some of the purchases. So I do feel like budgeting is really important. So let's just say that each month you're gonna spend $2,000 on groceries, entertainment, activities, experiences, whatever it is that you guys would want to spend your money on. If there is a month where then you look back and you see, wow, we spent $4,000 this month, you got to try to figure out what the difference was and where that extra $2,000 went. Did you guys plan to have a vacation and maybe you were buying airfare and maybe you booked the hotel? You know, try to figure out what it was in that month that made you over exceed that budget. Now, in terms of those types of trips that you want, I think that can be its own separate budget depending on how much money is coming through your household. If you do one trip a year and you have set aside $5,000 for that trip, then keep that $5,000 there because you know that you have the means to cover the trip that way. However, if you're someone who has really not gone on a trip in a while and you want to plan a trip, I would try to roll that into your budget. Maybe take out Starbucks and take out Ulta and Sephora, some of those other things that you may not necessarily need if you want to make that trip happen. But sticking to that budget, that number that you pick that you are comfortable with, really is important. And I'm really guilty of this myself because truthfully, we have a budget in mind in terms of expenses. Like, I know how much I'm gonna spend on electricity, my cell phone, car insurance, home insurance, all of that stuff. And that's how I kind of budget the things I absolutely need. And then everything that I don't need, it's more of a decision in the moment. Do I really want this? Do I need this now? Can I get it later? Can I find it on sale? What value is this item bringing into my life? And for us, like, we've never budgeted for lucrative items, but we spend a lot of money specifically on wine and beer and whiskeys because we love tasting, we love those types of drinks. And then we spend a lot of money eating out sometimes. And then truthfully, I also spend a lot of money on groceries because I end up going to Trader Joe's 2-3 times a week, and every time I go, I'm pretty much spending $90 to $120. We'll get a ham, we'll get this, we'll get that. It all starts to add up, and you get a bag of groceries and you're like, that cost me $60. But when you're thinking about it, $60 would have gotten you maybe one meal or one dinner out, but you got yourself 4 or 5 meals for the $60. So it's still better, but sometimes I'm just surprised by how much I spend even at the grocery store. I'm like, I didn't even want this, you know? But sticking to a budget, find that number based on what you're making, what your significant other is making, what that household income is, or if it's just yourself. Find that budget, stick to it. It's one of the most important things that will ensure that you not only have money left over for savings, but that you're also able to put money into other avenues that are going to help you long term. Now, the next piece is something that I myself am very passionate about. I do have a financial advisor. I have someone who deals with my investments, so I don't have to switch money around if the stock drops or if one is doing really well. I don't have to worry about that personally. I have someone who will go in and move money around to make sure that for the long term, I am going to be investing properly. Now, I am 28 years old, so I'm pretty aggressive in terms of my investments because even if the market crashed in 2 years, I'm not planning on retiring for another 35 years, you know? So I would have time to make up an investment if something did happen to the market. So that's why I'm super aggressive, but when you're super aggressive, the gains are also very, very good. So if you were somewhere, let's just say you're 45 and on, I would probably start to be more moderate, less aggressive. And then the older you get and closer to retirement, you want to be very conservative because you do not want to lose the investments that you've built over the last 30, 40 years. So there's definitely something to be kept in mind there. But my biggest piece of advice is to try. This is a very large amount, and sometimes I know a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck, which is completely common. But if you are able to each year move 15% of your total actual income, so let's just say you make $50,000, 15% of that $50,000 you'd want to move into some kind of retirement planning account. Now, if you have a normal job, a corporate job, you're getting paid through, you know, an ADP portal or something like that, you would probably have the opportunity to do a 401k. Now, many employers in the US do a certain type of match. So let's say that they will match 3% each month if you put 3% into your 401k. You would always want to go the max amount that your employer is giving you. So if it was 6%, then you need to match 6% from every paycheck. So then they match another 6%, which means you're putting away 12%. Does that make sense? And if any of this does not make sense, please leave comments down below because I know this is a lot, but I really feel like this is so important, especially when you're talking about financial health, your credit, how you're going to buy things. It all comes into play and it's so incredibly important. So that would mean that you're basically putting 12% out of your paycheck if your company is matching 6%, which is awesome because you're basically getting free money put into your retirement by your employer, which is one of the many benefits of having an employer. And that is basically what I did for a long time. Now, the other thing, if you are self-employed like myself and many others, you would have to open up a Roth IRA account with some kind of financial institution, a financial advisor, etc., etc. When I left my corporate job, I moved all the money that was in my 401k. I basically had them send me a check, and we routed that check directly into my Roth IRA account. So we ended up putting that money into just a separate account. So I got a check, but I deposited it directly into my new financial institution for my IRA. Now, you do have limitations when you're self-employed of how much you can put. There is a limit every year, but whatever that limit is, I would say max it out. One of the IRA accounts is $5,500 each year. Another one can be up to a specific percentage of your total income. So just ask your financial advisor for options, but I always want you to be thinking about that retirement planning, because $20,000 put aside this year could literally, quite literally, be $2 million in 40 years. Okay, so every dollar that you put into your account is so important, because every day that goes by, it is gaining interest. You are making more money. So the fact that you put the money in that investment account is so important. So that's basically my big advice on investments. I'm not an expert. Please go see one. My expert is amazing. I love all the advice he's given me, and I honestly couldn't recommend anyone more than him. Absolutely love everything he's told me. Every time he's guided me and said, no, we're gonna move it here, I'm like, great, you know what you're doing, you know how the market's gonna act and what's happening. So please, use your judgment, because so many things happen in the world that can change an investment very quickly. The China deal, Brexit, those types of things affect that, and you yourself may not realize it, but that's what you have a financial advisor for. So that is tip number 2. Tip number 3. This is something that I had a hard time with when I was 18 to 20, because it was really hard for me to do this, because I was in college. You're living the life. You need to go buy snacks and drinks because people are coming over. Your roommates are throwing a party, so you have to pitch in. Nobody asked you, but you have to. So I was definitely living above my means. So tip number 3 is live within your means, and then live a little bit less, because you don't need to be the one flaunting all these things that you have just because you can. Okay, the idea here is, and I love this example because I was just talking to one of my friends about this, who is so business minded. She's such an entrepreneur. She is so smart. And we were just talking about this in terms of people, rather than putting $500 into a retirement account today, people would rather take that $500, that's their like leftover money after they've paid all their bills, they've got all their food, their groceries, all that stuff. They would rather take that $500 and go buy themselves a Dyson blow dryer. Well, if that's your last $500, you probably should not be buying the blow dryer. But at least if it's cash that you have, that's better than buying it on credit with money you don't have. So that is what I mean by live within your means. If you have a credit card for a limit of $20,000 or $30,000 or whatever it is, you should not be spending that credit card to the max, to the point where you can't pay it off, okay? A credit card should not be taken as a line of credit that you're not going to pay back right away, because those fees and the interest are going to start catching up to you, and you're going to have $200 here, $300 there because you didn't make the full payment, when you could use that money to buy the blow dryer that you wanted in the first place. It just doesn't make sense to spend a credit card's amount of credit if you don't have the money to pay it in the next bill. The reason I have credit cards is because I want to get miles, I want to get cash back. I basically use credit cards for the bonus side. I'm not using it as a line of credit to spend money I don't have. This is not like a mortgage, this is not like a car loan. It is very different. When you have a credit card to Macy's and Nordstrom and whatever, you need to really add up the benefits of those credit cards and what they're really getting you. I myself have an American Airlines credit card because I want to get miles back for all the travel I'm doing. So I use the card, and then I look and I'm like, oh wow, I have so many miles that I can then use for free flights. And because I travel so much, free flights are actually a really good bonus for me. There's other cards that give you cash back, like my Amazon Prime one actually just gives me cash back to my Amazon account. We use Amazon all the time, so that makes sense. So credit cards should be used for their bonuses and their benefits and discounts and whatever they're offering, not to be used as a line of credit for money you do not have, okay? So living within your means is really more so living a little bit below your means. Like, still live comfortably, do what you want to do, but you don't need to go buy something that you don't have the money for. And a lot of girls, especially in college, when they've got, you know, they're on the college budget, they're out there buying Louis Vuitton bags and all these expensive bags, but really you don't need that stuff and you can't afford it, okay? And then your parents have to, it's just not a good idea. And I've had many girls come to me and say, you know, I really wanted the new Louis Vuitton bag. It was really important to me personally. And then I had to impress Susie in my hometown that I had this bag. Just don't worry about Susie from your hometown. Just do not worry about her. You are gonna be in a better place if you live within your means. And the best advice I've ever heard from somebody, and I watched this on a TikTok video recently, is the people who have a lot of money are not out there flaunting that they have a lot of money. They're driving the car from 2005. They're not driving the newest Lexus and being flashy with their money. That's just the reality of it. So you don't need to flash anything, because people know these days that if you're flashing, it really means that you're trying to impress people. And if you have that money, you don't need to impress anybody, okay? You don't need to impress anybody. So food for thought there. That is tip number 3. Now, tip number 4 is going back to what I mentioned earlier with Lexington Law. Check your credit score. I actually check my credit score probably 2-3 times a month. I have that kind of built in to one of my credit cards. So when I log in, it'll say like your credit score has changed, and I go check it out, hoping every time that of course it's gone up. But sometimes when you get a new line of credit, like once we bought our house in January, my credit score dropped quite a bit. So when you take a big line of credit like that, whether it's for a car, a house, you're financing something, a business, whatever it is, your credit score is probably gonna take a hit, because you have now added on a significant amount of debt under your name. So it's just going to affect your credit score negatively until you start to kind of make payments and you can continue to build it up. So that's why you always want your credit score to be as high as possible before you have to get the line of credit, because the line of credit is going to bring it down in most cases. So just something to kind of keep in mind, watching that credit score. And then there's been times even recently with me where I have auto payments for pretty much everything. There's a couple things that don't have auto payments because I don't use them that often, and I completely forget to pay, okay? And then I get a letter 3 months later saying you haven't paid, you didn't read our letter, this and that. That would be a potential situation where Lexington Law can jump right in and go handle that for me, because honestly, I just didn't make the payment because they don't do auto payments. I didn't get the letter, maybe it went to my old address. Like, there's a good case to be made that they can then fight for you to ensure that that does not affect your credit. Because trust me, not paying a $20 bill for 3 months can significantly hurt your credit. So this is why I'm really encouraging you guys to not only be financially savvy, understand the rules, but also if you need the help and you need someone to help you manage your credit, Lexington Law is that solution for you. And I'm just really thankful that I was able to partner with them this year, because sharing this information with you guys and giving you this kind of wealth of knowledge and just opening your eyes and kind of exposing you to it is so important, because it will truly help you long term when you're trying to buy a house. I know a lot of you guys are in the same age group as me, if not younger. You're kind of in that 20 to 30 range, and this is really when we're making some of the biggest purchases of our lives, and you do not want to get denied to buy a house, to get a credit card, to get a car loan. All of that stuff is very important, and it's based on your credit score. So why not just get help if you need it? So I'm just gonna keep throwing them in there, because it's just such a great company that can really change your life, and you will be able to buy the things that you need and not live above your means. Okay, so that is tip number 4. The last tip I'm going to give you is kind of a combination of some of the things I've already said, but the biggest one for me is when I'm getting a credit card, I am looking for credit cards that are specifically going to give me something back. So I know I mentioned this earlier, but I love my airline credit card because I get mileage back, which is incredible. I want to get more miles so that I can travel more, take more trips. And then I also have my credit card that gives me cash back to my Amazon account, which is perfect because we use Amazon Prime for pretty much most things. I mean, anything you can think of. We've got cats, so we get our litter, our food, cat treats, toys. All of the cat stuff comes from Amazon, and then toilet paper, paper towels, like all the cleaning supplies, Amazon. So why not get a card that would actually make sense and give me cash back to buy more things that I need? So when you're applying for credit cards, know that, again, you're asking for a line of credit. It could impact your score, your credit score, but get a credit card that makes sense, you know? Like, why do any of us need a credit card that's not gonna give us bonuses? It's not gonna give us something that we actually genuinely need. Just make sure that the credit card you have in your hand now is doing some kind of benefit. You should be getting a bonus of some kind back, whether it's cash back, deals, discounts, whatever it may be. Just make sure it benefits you, and if it doesn't, close out that card, which again could affect your credit score, and just get a new one, because why spend all this money and put thousands of dollars on a credit card when you're not getting anything back in return that's worthy and valuable to you? So that is my advice. It's been a lot of me talking, but I really feel like I've just had a conversation with a friend about finances, and I just had this conversation with a friend. So it was kind of fresh in my mind, and I thought I would share all of these tips with you guys. Please let me know what questions you have. Please let me know what your financial worries are, what your financial wellness is like. Are you saving money? I know a lot of that stuff can get a little personal, but if you don't want to comment down below, you can always email me. I'll have my email address down below too, because I know some of these topics get a little sensitive, but I'm the type of person who wants to talk about these things and kind of get other people's perspectives, learn from their experience, learn from their knowledge and what they recommend, and then kind of bottle it all up together and then take that advice as it is. So let me know if you have questions. I hope you guys have enjoyed this very chatty video. I am now going to drink my coffee because it is actually really cold here, surprisingly. Usually in Tucson, it doesn't get that cold, but last year, towards the end of January, the beginning of February, when we had first moved into the house, well, that wasn't last year, that was this year. But when we first moved into the house, it snowed one day, and I don't think I got any work done that day. I was just staring out the window, watching the little snowflakes stick to the ground, because that never happens in Tucson. It happens in the mountains because we have mountains pretty close by, but not here. And it was just wild to see snow on cacti. It's just so beautiful. So I'm hoping it snows this year, but it's not that cold yet. So anyway, I hope you guys are having a great day so far, and I will talk to you in my next video. Bye.